Hello everyone. Today we've got, is it Nicholas or Nick? What do you prefer?
French people call me Nicolas, but you can call me Nick. I mean,
Oh, Nicolas, of course. Yeah, yeah. So let's go with Nicolas. That's better. So yeah, so we have, well, all of us watch lovers rarely get to experience, and that's some time with an actual microbrand owner. So we got Nicolas from Beaubleu today. So welcome.
welcome.
Great to have you. So yeah, I do obviously have some questions for you today. So we'll get into your watches shortly, but first, could you tell us a little bit about your background before you got into watches?
My background. So at the beginning, a long time ago, no, a really long time ago, but I was a professional fencer, an athlete for the
Fencer.
French team. Yeah, fencer.
Oh, right.
And then after, I was also very interested into architecture and design. So that's what I did during my studies. I studied design, more specialized in car design, and even more specialized in interior car design for
Oh,
like
all
five
right.
years. So and then I worked for a little bit of car brand and but also mostly with startups and like in the uh, luxury market, mostly on watches, because
Yeah.
also I was very interested into watches, and so I started like designing for some brands like Van Cleef& Arpels. Maybe you heard about it.
Which one,
And
sorry?
Van Cleef& Arpels, it's like
Okay, no, I haven't.
it's a French brand with with a Danish thing, but it's actually
Okay.
it's like that.
Yeah. Okay, gotcha. Very good.
And
Okay.
and then after that, I actually created my design agency, and I work for like startups and big companies like the high-speed train, Alstom. So I redesigned the interior of the high-speed train, but not the one that we have currently, but the one that's going to be like in a couple months or years. I don't think
Okay.
they're
So
ready.
is this
But
the TGV in France or? Gotcha. Yeah. Okay.
it's going to
Oh,
be the
nice.
new
Okay.
version.
That would
And
be fun.
yeah, and then after designing for all those companies, I had an idea of like just create a watch, but just a watch for myself, like just a sample working watch. And then I started redesigning the the, the watch, and then I came with those circular hands, and I was like, because I actually work with so many startups to create their companies. I had a little bit of a glimpse of what could be actually the create a brand, create a
Yeah.
create such an adventure, and so in 2017 I created a Beaubleu.
Okay, cool. Okay. So you're getting a little bit ahead of my questions here, but so but can you tell me, so what was your first watch and what are some of your favorite brands at the moment?
So the first watch that someone gave me was Jaeger LeCoultre,
Oh yeah. Oh
uh,
wow. Okay, fantastic.
from the 50s,
Yeah.
and but at that time I was like very young and quite young, and I was like, yeah, it's like it, but it's maybe too minimalist and stuff like that. And the
Yeah.
first watch I got from my mother for my 18th birthday was Longines Master Collection, a
Oh wow,
chronograph
fantastic.
with a black dial. So it was
Yeah.
like super nice, like a mix between like something classic and having a little bit some with a yeah a touch a little bit sporty vibe. So I liked it. And my favorite brand, I like Cartier. Cartier
Yep.
mostly for the shape of their case. I have
Yep.
one of my favorite is the Crash one. It's not the most liked in Cartier, but it's the one who's
Yeah.
like it's like I don't know how to describe it, but it's yeah, it's called the Crash.
Okay.
Uh, and basically also the tank. And so Cartier Trilobe, it's a I could say like a new brand, it's a micro brand, but it's called Trilobe.
Okay.
We have also a very different conception of time, and the way you read the dial was also very different. So that's why also I like it.
Is
And
that a French brand or?
it's a French brand, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
And Moser. Uh,
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Moser.
Yeah. Amazing stuff. Yeah.
It's very classic, but also I like the way I like also the brand himself who actually come up with like those statement watch or concept watch. I
Yeah.
don't know. they try to, I don't know, make it fun, and I think it's
Yeah,
actually
like the
quite
last one
cool.
that most released with the QR code on top. I mean,
Yeah,
they're literally just teasing people now, you know. They're just doing it because they can, basically.
yeah, but it's also fun like to see those kind of concept from a brand who's actually also very classic
Yeah,
and known also for their movement and their craftsmanship and so on. So
yeah.
that brand.
Yeah, oh, that's good. Great inspiration brand there. So yeah, you touched on it a little bit already, but could you tell us a little bit about how your watch design came to be? Because obviously, it's a very distinct design, and when we started chatting, I'd never come across it before, but when I saw the watch, and particularly the one I reviewed, like it's very beautiful and really quite different. Like I suppose the circular hands have been done before, but the overall design, like you come up with, is very unique. So, how did that come about?
There's a short answer and a long answer.
Yeah, we've got time, so all good.
So the long answer is at the end actually of my studies, I wrote a thesis on emptiness. So
Ah,
it was a very conceptual philosophical thesis, but the idea was to understand what is emptiness and relate it also to time and with all those research that I did on emptiness, I came up also with like so many drawings from Galileo, from like other physician or like even like architects and stuff like that. And the circle was actually the for them the best way to conceptualize a space related to time. And all this iconography around space and time was actually summed up into a circle. And I think it was like also a good idea to actually yeah make the connection between space and time in a watch. And that's why I
yeah,
came up with the second hand.
yeah, right, okay. Yeah, it's a fantastic concept, and I particularly like it because they're very beautiful, and you can tell the time. But this is not a watch you stand there and time lapse with. It's it's more of a philosophical approach to what time it is, which I really enjoyed.
That's actually was the concept. The thing is like why the question I asked myself was like why bringing another watch on the market? Why bringing
Hmm.
another on the market? I mean, so many brands, micro or like big brands,
Yeah,
uh, great job so I really asked the question like why I should do it instead of just my little pleasure to do it. And I
yeah,
was like, oh, if I come up with a watch, it should or brand, whatever, but at the beginning was just a watch, was to bring maybe something more. I mean, like before a watch was a tool, then after it turned into like an accessories or a jewelry,
yeah,
and and so many brands are doing both very well. But I wanted maybe to bring something a third, I don't know, a third foot to the stool, as I say, and say like, okay, maybe something else, something more based on the design, on the experience, and also the way you actually read. No, you read under that the way you perceive the time. It's also very different from where you are, who you are, and at what moment you are in the during the day or during the
yeah,
year and having something that like yeah when you read the time and you watch the watch you have something a little bit different something more yeah more experimental
yeah,
and uh, and having another version of what could be watchmaking.
yeah. Yeah, I love it, and I think it's such a fantastic approach. It's really fun, and I think when we started chatting as well, like, I mean, I have absolutely nothing against dive watches. I dive and I love dive watches, but there are a lot of dive watches, and particularly when there's a new watch coming on, 9 times out of 10 is either a dive watch or some sort of field watch or whatever. But as you say, like, what's the point of bringing another one unless they are significantly different in their approach? So you certainly did that, which is awesome.
Yeah, and I tried to be quite critic before I was starting this brand and saying like I was discussing with friends and some of my friends are not watch enthusiasts at all. I mean, they don't really
Uh,
see the points, but they were like, no, but you know, you have time on your computer, even on your oven and stuff like that. And
yeah.
instead of just put them apart, the discussion, say, okay, you don't know watches, let's not talk about it. I was like,
Yeah,
yeah, I mean, that's true. I mean, like if we would just focus on like reading time, you have this information everywhere. So what
yeah,
actually the purpose of a watch nowadays when you have actually this info everywhere? And I was like, the watch actually should bring something else that your oven or your computer or your cell phone cannot give you. And this little poetry aesthetic experience was actually the, the brief before I started designing the
Yeah.
watch.
Yeah, great to hear. And yeah, I've always felt as well, like similarly, but not quite the same. But I kind of feel like if I'm walking down the street, like I look at my phone, 100 times a day, like everyone else, right? But if I just want to know what time it is, I shouldn't have to bring out a phone and get distracted by things. I should just be able to look at my wrist and go, yeah, that's what the time is. It's
Yeah,
got a job to do, and that's why it's there. But also, as you say, it has to look beautiful as well, because otherwise, what is the point?
yeah,
Yeah.
totally agree.
So, yeah, so without giving away any of your secrets, could you tell us a little bit about how your journey went getting started with sourcing the material and the concept design and I guess manufacturing as well?
So how it started is like, so first of all, yeah, it was just a watch that I wanted to design for myself and say, okay, let's do a prototype, and that's it. I didn't have uh, I didn't really wanted to create a brand on the first place. And so I started designing the watch, and I even like put straight hands on the dial. And I was like, okay, maybe it's a little bit, maybe too boring for me.
Yeah,
So I was designing the dial, the hands, and so on. So I came with the circular hands, and then I see like, okay, there is something, tells something on the watch. I mean, it start telling a story, and I think maybe it's worth it to 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 get further in the concept and maybe create a brand. And also because I design a couple products for startups, I knew also the steps of like how to get there, like in terms of
yeah,
production, in terms of like creating company. I mean, like I had my design agency, but getting into a production, following the production, also with all the financial aspect and communication, legal aspect, and so on, was also um, quite new. But thanks to those companies that I followed, I was a little bit aware of what's gonna happen in the future.
yeah.
So I started finishing designing the watch like in June 2017.
Okay.
Uh, and after and then I really wanted to be real as quick as I could to actually see if the concept worked, because of course like I was very enthusiastic, but I really want to see like the result, like is it worth it or not. So I created a company in September. I scream everywhere that people I could see the prototypes in December and be able to pre-order the watch, the first collection at that time, and they will be able to get their watch in April. So like in 8 months, the idea was to see clearly if the concept was worth it.
Yeah.
And so so actually went through. I mean, like I received so many enough pre-orders to actually launch the production in January, and in April I delivered the first clients.
And it
Uh,
wasn't Kickstarter, was it?
no, it was not a
No.
Kickstarter. It was on a website. We were like totally unknown, but like uh, also that was the idea. Is like if we don't really help the brand and we just like display the watches, have just maybe at that time a shitty website, and just
Yeah.
if it was with those things, maybe
Yeah.
worth living and like and try something else. And so the way actually I designed the watch, and I discussed with a Swiss agency who do R&D in watchmaking, Gole Inspira. And because also that was the one of the difficult point, because I came with this design with the circular hands, but also the um, the lugs of the case was also quite new, because it's actually not the same part of the case. It's actually
No.
separate lugs. And when I went to some watchmakers, some people say no, the hands is actually not possible to do. I can do it, but the lugs it's actually fine. And when I see another one, they say like, oh no, the lugs impossible to do. But the hands, no, it's a piece of cake. I know how to do it.
Right.
So then it was actually kind of difficult to find those guys. But thanks also to my past experience, the watchmaking industry, I had a few contacts in France and in Switzerland. to start the project. And I find a guy who was like, no, actually, both we can do both the lugs and the hands,
Yeah.
and he really liked the challenge, and he was like, yeah, it's actually new. Like usually people ask me to do like sort of a Danny Wellington inspired watch, and like you're
Yeah.
the one of this guy who came with something quite difficult to make but very challenging. And actually the guy said like, but that's the purpose of my work. I mean, it's like
Yeah.
challenge for what I'm doing, and
Great.
and so the guy was very excited about it.
Yeah, yeah, fantastic. So I'm interested. So going back to what you said about the website, so you basically just knocked up the website, made the watches or made the watch then available for sale, and so how did you market that? Like, how did you get the word out at all? Was it just blogs and journalists or flyers on the
Not
street?
Not in, yeah, almost sign on the street. No, but almost nothing actually.
Right.
It was crazy to start it like that. I mean, if I had to do it again, I don't think I will do it like that quick. But it went well at the end, so that's cool. But the no, actually, I actually had one journalist to talk about it, and one blogger, a French blogger. But because it so was a new watch in the market, and thanks to the watch fans and stuff like that, people are more and more aware about new brands. And so it was the shot to actually display the watch and see how it goes. And I was very surprised actually how many people actually came to the website and pre-ordered the watch. Um, but no, not that many. But not because I didn't have enough money to be honest to actually put money down on Instagram or Facebook or even in
No, no.
magazines. So I was just like, okay, the watch, the website,
Yeah.
couple photos on Instagram, and that's it.
Buy it or don't
And
buy it. Yeah. That's actually fascinating because it's completely different from anyone else I've spoken to where, typically they go to like the Kickstarters of the world, which is, understandable. Or I was going to say, I don't know what other option. I think pretty much all the ones I've spoken to have been like that actually. That's some sort of campaign online.
but the
So
thing
it's
is,
interesting.
yeah, I mean, of course, the idea of like starting with Kickstarter crossed my mind, but also I didn't want to. I really wanted to know if just the watch himself could work. I mean, I
Yeah,
could do like the best branding with a lot of marketing investment and stuff like that. But at the end, if the concept only worked because I put a lot of money down for the branding or the marketing, it will actually twist the result of if the watch himself worked. I just wanted to.
yeah.
I'm a nurse, so for me, putting maybe too much branding or marketing investment on the first at first is a little bit travesting the concept, like and maybe we lost with too many information.
Yeah, I know what you're saying because actually I'm thinking, like for instance, with my YouTube channel. So I mean, most of the videos that I put up, I do spend an amount of money, like not a lot, but to advertise them just to get the views up. But it's pretty obvious that the ones that constantly re-engage with my channel, they're the ones that searched it out. They found me because they're interested in either microbrands or just particular watches, or they just came across one video, subscribed for some reason, and they keep watching. So I know what you're saying. Like, you can advertise and you will get people interested, but whether they stick around, that's another issue altogether.
Yeah, yeah, and for Kickstarter, I mean, for the second collection, we did a Kickstarter, but for a different reason. But I didn't want to do it in the first place. Also, to not be considered as like a Kickstarter watch.
Yeah,
And actually, Kickstarter is a very powerful tool and very
yeah, for
useful.
sure.
But also, it's very powerful because it's also based on uh, the Kickstarter user, and as a brand yeah, as a watch brand, it's mainly like the price and the watch,
Yeah,
and who really talk about something else. And me identifying Beaubleu just in terms of the good deal that you could make on Kickstarter was was not really what I wanted on the first place.
nah, Yeah, interesting. It's a brave approach, but and I'm really glad it worked out. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So in my day job, I mentioned before, so I work a lot with small business owners every day, and I know what it's like to be, the sales and marketing person. You're the web designer, you're the accountant, you're quality control, you're everything basically. So did you realize, like, when you decided to go ahead and make a watch that wasn't just for yourself, like, how did you cope with all that work?
But as I told you, I had a little bit of a glimpse of what could be the next 3 years. At the moment,
Yeah,
the company, how the three next years will look like, and I made a contract with myself, and I said like, Nicolas, are you ready to eat noodles for the next 3 years? Because that's
yeah,
actually gonna happen before like even if the project was starting well. I mean, all the money had to be reinvested, and not only on Beaubleu, and so I was like, okay, it's gonna be 3 rough years, like everyone who started a company, a watch company, or something else. Um, at the beginning, it was very interesting to actually switch from a subject to another one. I mean, like accounting was also that type of accounting was also very new. I was like also discussing with photographer, movie makers, um, watchmakers, but on a daily basis, which was also very different. So for me, actually meeting all those new people personally was very challenging, but also but super interesting.
yeah,
Now, actually, it's getting bigger and bigger, so I can't actually do switch to so many subjects. So now I'm hiring actually 4 new people this year to actually restructure the company and have like someone for the I have an accountant, but like for the accounting, for like the production, not for the production, for the marketing, for the
yeah,
communication, and for the supply. And it's actually quite hard, but because you're so interested in what you're doing and everything is super new, um, yeah, it is very interesting. But as
yeah,
a designer is not only someone who actually design aesthetic stuff. It's someone who actually try to understand uh, how actually people use a concept or a process, or how they basically you try to understand how they work. And also when I understand the way they work, the tools they use and stuff like that, I try to when I work with them, well, with those suppliers of like people work with me, try to understand where they work, and then before that, I try to make sure that like it fits the way they work, so it's actually um, more efficient. It's The process is quite seamless, so that's actually you get quite faster, quite
understood.
fast.
Yeah, okay. So it sounds like you're trying to hone in more on the things that you really love, and outsourcing the other things. Like, I suppose no one wants to be an accountant, I guess, ideally, but even like the marketing side of things and things like that, you almost need someone full time on that. So
Yeah, it's actually very busy days. I mean, you start early and you finish late.
yeah,
No, but
no,
yeah, no, I think every department, I mean, every subject is very interesting,
yeah,
um, especially at the beginning because everything is new. But also at the end, it starts to be quite frustrating because, like, you actually work on every subject, but also it's a matter of time, and
yeah,
not to be frustrating because you know exactly what you want, but it will take only you will be able to do, I don't know, maybe 20% of the subject, and then you switch to another one.
yeah,
And when you reach a certain level with your company, only doing 20% on every subject is actually not possible. So you have to
no,
find people
no.
who are better than you, which is maybe not difficult, it's actually not difficult, and they will be 100% on that task and do a better job.
Yeah. Yeah, good. So on the subject, I suppose, of money ultimately. So it's a very difficult equation for any micro brand, and I guess any brand at all, the whole quality versus price, because it's a hard balance to strike because you need to take them, you need to make your product available at a price that's attractive enough to buy, but you still need to make money.
Hmm.
So So actually, I mean, you might already be at this point, but what would it take for you to make a living from Beaubleu? Alone? Like, are you still working on your advertising agency and things like that as well, or is it a full-time job for you now?
No, no, no. At the moment I started Beaubleu, I was just finishing a contract with the TGV, the French High-Speed
Yeah.
Train, for 3 months, and then after I was full time on Beaubleu. So I stopped
Okay,
doing
right.
my
Yeah.
agent
Okay. So and
because it
that
was.
so that and you're able to make a living from that now? Like that is paying the bills for you?
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Oh, fantastic. Yeah.
But also, the only way to slow is actually to be on full time. I mean, I
Yeah.
know that
Yeah.
people do both, but I don't know how they do it, honestly, because like I work
That's
every
hard. I
week.
mean, yeah, I don't know if you see any of my other interviews, but I've spoken to, one or two Australian brands and New Zealand brand like Droken in New Zealand and Second Hour here in Melbourne. And, they're still at the point where they're almost there and they're just about to sort of cut, part-time jobs to be able to make a living full time from your passion. But it's a hard thing to do to cut the cord and jump in.
But that's why actually, just before I start the company, I was like, Nicolas, are you sure you want to eat noodles for the next
Yeah.
2 years? And when you tell that to yourself, you're like, yes, I know it's going to be a lot of sacrifice
Yeah.
and stuff. But if you are not sure where or what's going to happen, good or bad, and you stick to that point.
Yeah.
It's still hard, but you can actually make it. So
Yeah.
for
And
me,
you get used
yeah,
to 2 minute noodles, so it's okay.
yeah. And when it's you sell what you put a little bit of Parmigiano on it, and you're like, ooh, it's
Yeah.
Christmas.
Yeah. So, so what's next for you to grow your brand? Like, where do you think you might be in 5 years? Like, what's the grand plan?
Sorry, yeah, I forget. I didn't actually answer your question about like the price and quality.
Oh, right, no,
Um,
that's all right. Yeah, we'll go back. Yeah.
the question of price and quality obviously was a question for the first collection.
Yeah.
Because we're talking about watches and the watch industry with those uh, big brands and like their quality and their heritage and so on. The idea was to come up with the best quality possible with a price with actually a humble price. The first one was like 600 euros.
Right.
It's way too not cheap, but way too affordable for Beaubleu. But that was
Yeah.
not the question at the beginning. The question was not to make money for the first collection. The idea was
No.
okay, we present you a different concept. The quality should not be a question. Uh, like as a good student, you do all your homework. Okay, good movement with the sapphire
Yeah.
glasses and so on, and you focus on the details, on the assembly of the watch, especially with those separate lugs stuff. And like, okay, I show you the best quality possible with a very affordable price to actually create the community and say, okay, if people actually agree on the concept, they buy the watch, then we create a community, and that now we call the club, and thanks to that club, who actually co-create the new collection with me. I send them like sketches with some inspiration, and then we talk about it. And then the second collection came thanks to also to that process, and
Okay.
because also they they could relate on the design and the quality. I was also able to raise the price a little bit, because also they knew the quality. They could actually test the quality, review those watches and stuff. So um, yeah, the idea was to have a very humble process and say,
Yeah.
okay, you know me. You don't know if I'm going to deliver. You don't know what type of quality I'm going to deliver. You don't
No.
know things for those first. And then for the second, like now we know we have also good experience with the first collection. The second collection came up with new dial with lacquer and stuff like that. So in terms of price, it was a little bit higher. And for the third collection, now we starting to have a reputation. So also like we don't have to apologize now anymore that we're
No.
new and it's kind of like the quality.
Yeah.
And also between like 500 euros and 1,500 euros in that market, I thought that like that was also the best way to actually be quite creative. If you're too high, like it's too easy to compare you with I don't know Rolex or Omega or whatever or
Yeah.
whatever
Yeah.
and stuff like that. And I didn't want to. Be there and like start to design something like who's the most classic,
No.
uh,
No.
and
And I
that's where
think And I think as well, like on that note, like I mean, there are quite a few micro brands that are like just a little bit higher, like the Ferrers of the world, and there's a few American brands as well. They're sort of in the $2,500 to $3,000, and you sort of go, that becomes a different decision almost because then you're not far away from Longines and all those sort of brands that have a lot of heritage and proper history behind them. So I think the price point you've chosen for all your watches is really spot on. I mean, it's a little bit higher than just a really cheap micro brand, but it's still very affordable, I'd say.
yeah, and also I was not only designing for like watch geek or watch fans. I mean, like the idea was to okay, you don't know watches, but because maybe you don't really understand the price or the specification or the heritage, the codes or whatever, but like you like the product himself. And so let's open the door of the watchmaking industry with
Yeah.
the door of design and not necessarily the door of like marketing or heritage or craftsmanship. I mean, of course, I will tell you about more about it when you get into it. But like, let's start with one door, and that door was like this new concept of that.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think, I mean, you touched on that with the micro brand as well. I mean, you don't buy any, I mean, let's be honest, you don't buy any micro brand for an investment. Like, I mean, there's a couple, I suppose, that you could potentially speculate on and make money on, but really, you buy micro brands because you fall in love with often the people behind them, but also the designs and the fact that, you get a lot of quality for your money. So you
Yeah,
do have to attract that crowd that really love your product and want to own it.
yeah, yeah, true.
Yeah. So yeah, so let's go back to the 5-year plan. So what's the plan for the future?
The plan for the future. So the idea also is to during those last 5 years was to get some medals in the watchmaking industry
Yeah.
by like department stores and big journalists and
Yeah.
big magazines and so on. Um, I think in the watchmaking industry, it's a lot about like acknowledgement. Okay, you're a real brand, you're a real
Yeah.
watch, and even if you don't want to get into those kind of stuff, no matter what, you have to pass through those things. So I think the job has been done in France, and now it's getting more and more international. So the idea is like because like also we have some retailers in France. Like concept stores and big department stores in
Yeah.
Paris and in France. Now the idea is like to go like in Europe, Germany, Spain, Italy, and now I know that like so many people are interested in Japan, Korea, Australia more and more, and
Okay.
we'll see that in the future because it's also um, it's very appealing to be like, yeah, I'm in the US, like I sell my watch. I know that like
Yeah.
it's everyone want to be a part of the American dream, I guess, but it's also very specific market. So uh, US is a huge country. It's very different from the east to the west coast, and in the middle, it's totally different. So step by step, we're growing, and the idea is not going too fast because the idea is to last and still be here in 20 years. So so for the next 5 years, actually, yeah, it's to find new partner actually for those countries,
Yeah.
especially the first, so yeah, Australia, Japan, and Korea.
Yeah.
Um, and also try because also everything was based on the product. Now also it's a bit. more interesting to speak about like marketing. I mean, like we have like, as I say, like the watch is a person, let's say a working person, good
Yeah.
looking and so on.
Yeah.
But now the person has to speak, what
Yeah.
actually he has to say. It should not be just, a person. And so now it's actually more interesting to speak about the philosophy, to where we want to go, and not speak too much about the secular hand. The secular hand is actually a consequence of philosophical thought or creative
Yeah.
thought, thinking. So yeah, the idea is to go further into the concept
Mm.
and for people to understand.
Yeah, sounds good. I mean, I think from my perspective, and it does seem that there's so many great French brands, like French watch brands at the moment. Like I found, it's more interesting out of France than many other parts of the world because I mean, obviously you do have the likes of Baltic, and you got yourself, you got, and even like you got a Charlie Paris, and you got Messi
Sega.
watches are getting a fair bit of attention at the moment. Like it does seem like a lot of French watch brands are getting a lot of attention, and for good reason because they are quite unique often. So hopefully
Yeah, I
that
don't.
will rub off on you.
Yeah, but also it's very hard to compete with the idea of the Swiss brand. I mean, like
Yeah,
they have a heritage, and I think every country has their own inspiration, own way to see time and to see watches.
yeah,
And you know, maybe the Frenchies are maybe this little je ne sais quoi to come up
yeah,
with new products. I don't know, but
yeah,
also what I like in the French industry is like is yeah, I don't know, they don't try necessarily to be a part of the Swiss club. They just
no,
want to go on. Like we have our own singularity, I would say, and work on that, and will be hate and all loved for those reasons. And I think that's how you create, uh, yeah, a strong spirit. So we know actually, fine, all the brands, the French brands know each other,
yeah,
and we actually help each other on so many aspects because also even as a young brand, we wanted to. That's what I feel. Uh, Create that French spirit, like
yeah.
the as fun.
Yeah, good to hear. And I mean, you touched on that before, like you're not necessarily so interested in a Swiss club, because I mean, that's one interesting thing with your watches is the fact that, and actually with, say, something like Baltic as well, you don't really use Swiss movements religiously. And that's interesting because, I mean, the one that I borrowed from you had a Miyota movement, and what's come across from every single microbrand owners I've talked to is that the Miyota movements are the most reliable movements of them all. So,
Yeah,
you can go ahead and I mean, it looks good to have a Salita or if you really like an ETA movement or something in your watches. But ultimately, what would you rather? As a buyer, I would rather have a movement that's just going to last for a long, long time.
yeah, and of course there's like fans for like only Swiss movement, and some people like say like no, actually the Miyota, the Japanese one works perfectly well. So before because at that time I had the choice between like choosing like a ETA movement or a Miura movement, and for me it was a very pragmatic choice. I mean the Miyota, the 9015 was actually 1 millimeter smaller than the
Right.
so I say I wanted to have like something like quite thin. So for me, and it was well known, and even if it was well known, I was like, okay, it's well known. Let's have a try with that one for the first collection.
Yeah.
And we sold actually all the watches, and now it's been 5 years, and it's only the experience who are the real, judge at the end. And of course, everyone wants to have a good quality watch, but especially the brand, we don't want to have like
Yeah.
too customer service and stuff like so. It's not worth it to have like the cheapest movement who's not really reliable and stuff like that and sell watches. But at the end, you will pay the price of this kind of move. So now after 5 years, like this Miyota 1915. Uh, it's a no-brainer. I mean, like
Yeah,
you know it's gonna work. And then also in Paris, like our watchmaker actually um, changed the accuracy of the watch because I know that like for Miyota it's like -10 +30 or something like that.
yeah,
It's a little bit too big for me,
yeah.
but it's a matter of like uh,
Regulating
accuracy
it.
regularly.
Yeah,
And and for Beaubleu we're doing like -7 +7, so it takes more
right.
time. It takes more, but but uh, but it's worth it.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. I think so. Because I mean, you do notice those sort of things as an owner. Because even though, I mean, personally, I'm never really too worried about accuracy in mechanical watches because you kind of set them all the time anyway, so whatever. But you know, it's nice to know that it is quite accurate. You know, when you buy a watch, that's for sure. Because as you say, like it's not fun to buy a watch that will lose or gain 40 seconds a day. You know, it's a bit much.
Yeah.
Are there any, that's my final question, Nicolas. Are there any secret designs coming up or any fun new projects that you could give us a bit of a hint on?
So the thing is, like, I design a new collection every 2 years. 2 years. Why? Because everything goes so fast with for Beaubleu. I really want to, have the time to really think the concept uh, yeah, have time to come up with something new. And if we pretend to say like, yeah, I design like timeless timepiece. Uh,
Yeah,
I don't need to actually launch a watch. Like if I launch a watch tomorrow, or in 1 year or in 2 years, if it's a timeless timepiece, it should not matter.
no,
So one every 2 years. For now, it's a good pay. Um, and when I tried to design something, I tried to design what I call the, the I tried to redesign the which goes without saying. Some like, of course, when you think about hands, watch hands, you're like, yeah, it goes without saying that it's straight hands,
yeah,
or like should be a part of the case.
yeah,
And I tried to redesign those things. No, actually, watch hands should not be only straight. Could be
no,
circular. Could be.
yeah,
Uh, mm, Same for the stainless steel strap. Yeah, it should actually goes like that and made with those pieces and stuff. And I'm like, no, no, no. Maybe we could come up with something new. And
yeah,
that's actually the idea. And for the future, it's to keep that in mind. Like, yeah, there is no status quo in products in general, and
no,
there is no status quo for like watches. Even if there's like so many different versions, you still can
yeah,
actually change the concept. Uh, so so then after you pick up a complication or something, and let's say like let's redesign it to have like a very new perception of it. For instance, the GMT one, the dual time that we did for the third collection, I was
yeah,
like, yeah, of course you can like move the bezel to set the second time zone, or like put a second crown, but like a visible crown. I was like, no, let's take off the crowns, the crowns, or let's hide those crowns and make it like quite minimalist and
yeah,
focus on the dial,
yeah,
where there is like two different information. Uh, Um, so yeah, those little details actually could be challenged. So I don't know. Moon phase could be different. I'm not gonna do a chronograph. That's for sure. I mean, because
yeah,
chronograph too related to a pragmatic use. So have those circular hands who brings another perception of time would be quite weird to say, yeah, we offer you a new perception of time, but also time is still like 1 minute 60 seconds, and you can actually use it as a chronograph. No, the chronograph will not be the case, but like I don't know, moon phase or
yeah. I
uh,
can really, like, when you're saying that, like the moon, like some sort of treatment of a moon phase would really work, I reckon.
yeah, and
Because
also
you gotta, yeah. It will fit well
But
within your sort of design language, I think.
yeah, yeah, I think so. I mean, it's a very challenging one because like it's too easy to say, yeah, let's challenge the status
Yeah,
quo. What and you have to
yeah,
be also a very humble approach, and also when you start, getting into the movement and stuff, it brings also a new challenge,
yeah,
in terms of efficiency and stuff. But also, yeah, I don't know, challenge just the concept of watch himself and the way you use the dial, the way the hands move on the dial. I mean, there's so many different aspects. I know that like when you sum up the watch industry, it's like okay, you have a diver one, you have a field one, you have a chronograph, then after like moon phase, tourbillon, and so on. Uh, but also, it's maybe our job as a designer to maybe bring another concept.
yeah. Yeah,
So
that's really exciting. Like I can't wait to see what you'll come up with because like I said, what I've seen from you till now is fantastic. Like it's really interesting and fun watches.
yeah,
So I'm really glad you got in touch, all that time ago. So yeah, I can't wait to see what you come up with. And before I let you go as well, I just want to call out the fact that you've done this whole interview like 45 minutes talking in a different language than your own, which is remarkable. So thank you for doing that. It's a challenge. I know myself. Like I mean, I've lived overseas for half my life, and if I had to do an interview in Swedish now, I wouldn't be as articulate as you are now. That's for sure. So,
thank you
so
so
well
much.
done.
Sorry
Uh,
for the viewers for my broken English, but I tried my
no,
best.
not at all. No, 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 not at all. So yeah, so thank you so much. It was great to chat to you. I'll just get you to hang around so we can upload the video. But thank you very much. Great to chat to you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.